Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. No matter what time of day it is for you, I want to thank you for joining us today on the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. And today, there's just two of us because our cohort, Brandy Biswell, is out in Los Angeles at the Serviceside and Pantheon. And our understanding is she's carrying a wheelbarrow around there, picking up all the swag because if there's one thing Miss Biswell loves, it is swag. So, Brandy, if you're listening to us, hey, I hope you're enjoying your time there because the things that we're getting back from Brandy are really sharing some gold nuggets she's picking up at this fantastic conference she's out in the LA Coliseum right now. So, actually, one of her gold nuggets she shared with us is going to be the basis for our broadcast today. Because as we look around the world, the country, and in our industry, that number one issue that just keeps hanging out there is how do I recruit and hire people? But there's a second challenge out there, which is also how do I keep the good people that I have? So today we're going to share something with you that should help you in this. So, Cheryl, what's your thought process about our subject matter today?
Well, like you say, once you get the people, you have to keep them. Used to, we would throw them out to the dogs and let them figure it out themselves. But you have to set up a career path for these people now. A lot of people can't do it themselves. So, as a leader, we have to help direct them in the correct way.
That's it. And Cheryl's doing interviews every day for the clients she works with. And I know when I walk past her office, I'll hear her in a conversation. And it was one just a little while ago. And he was asking about a lot of things and what was in it for him. And that's where she's got to be prepared in order to entice these people to come aboard and pursue this new career path. So today, that's what we're going to talk about is career paths. How do you construct one? What is a career path? And why do you need to have this? So stick around with us. We'll be right back after we play our opener, and we'll look forward to sharing our thoughts and our concepts and our processes with you today. So, welcome back with us. We appreciate you joining us today. And like I said, today's subject matter is going to be on what's called a career path and having a career path. And as I have listened to a lot of people that I depend on that give me advice, people such as my buddy Al Levy, another one is Tommy Mello, and I hear other people talking that are getting on top of this that a process of the career path is vastly important. In other words, what does the future hold for these people? If they come in to work for you, how do you gauge their interest? Because you got to remember, one of the things that people are looking for is advancement in the workspace. So, Cheryl, what's your feeling on the career path that we're talking about today?
Well, like you say, people are looking for an advancement. They don't want to stay where they're at. Most of them, I'm finding out, are happy where they're at, except they've reached the top level and they don't think they'll ever go any farther. So the main goal they're looking for a lot of times is a company that will move them from the beginning position and up the ladder. I think that's what all people want.
And back when I was starting in my career in workforce and other people, Cheryl, that's what I wanted. I didn't want to stay in that same position. I wanted to move up. I wanted to become in a much higher level within the company, and I wanted to advance up. I didn't want to hold just a minor part. And I think a lot of people share that desire, that dream. Yeah, there's going to be some that will be happy just at this place. They may be happy being a laborer, a helper, or whatever, and not have to carry that responsibility. But people need a career path in order to move there. So, one of the first things, if we listen to our friend Al Levy, Al talks about the need for an organizational chart because the organizational chart is going to show what is this path to move up in the company where you have somewhere to move to at a higher level. Do you agree with Al in that the organizational chart is of vast importance?
I do. The one thing that I think we have an issue doing is we don't have enough step ups. In a lot of industry, you move from tech, yeah, you've got very few steps. So I think there has to be some inner balloon levels that people can reach. And I think they need to be on the organizational chart. And we rarely ever talk about that.
Yeah, and it does. And one of the things that Al suggests, which is our next step, there's got to be a documentation of this career path. In other words, we've got to have a chart that shows people what do you have to do to move to the next level. And if you look at Al's systems of doing this, you'll see that in the case of a blue collar service business, we're running from a junior technician to a senior technician, and then the person moves on up in the management level. Even our own, we have what we call a technician's proficiency chart. And the proficiency chart is a 3-year plan that is laid out to show people these are the things that we need you to become proficient in as you go through this. So, Cheryl, again, what's your thoughts on this and what I'm saying? Are you in agreement with me?
I do agree. And I agree that it needs to be written. It doesn't need to change with every person. If you've got two guys or ladies that come in at the same level, they need to have the same steps to take, the same requirements, the same amount of training, the same amount of whatever it takes. I think a lot of times we're too quick just to give a raised position because of seniority. And I'm sorry, I don't believe in the seniority move.
Yep. And so you'll know while you were talking, Cheryl, I just shared the link to Al's manual systems and org charts because what he's done, he's laid out a templated plan that people can actually purchase and adapt it to their own use. And he also even offers 6 months of coaching with this to help you get there. So Al is a good resource person. He has helped a lot of people to get to this path. The next part of the career path is how are you mentoring them? How are you mentoring them and coaching them? One of the bad words that's out there today that we call managers is the word boss. And now we want people not to be bosses. Rather, we want them to learn how to mentor, how to coach, how to be an accountability partner to help these new people to ascend through these various steps. You know, it's kind of like today. I was actually talking to a client who is implementing Service Titan. And implementation of Service Titan, if you've done this, it's not very easy to do. It takes a lot of patience, and maybe it's going to take skills that you don't even possess in order to implement this fully. This is what we often see in a software program is people purchase a software and they may think it's what we call a plug and play software, but it's actually not. So what I want you to keep in mind is we're going through this discussion, think back a day. Think back to a much younger time in your life, and that was that first day that you went to school. You went to school on that first day. Maybe it was kindergarten, maybe you called it preschool, maybe you called it the first grade, but all of a sudden you were separated from your mother. Your mother had been this force in your life, and all of a sudden you were thrown into the real world. And part of that first grade teacher's task, or the kindergarten or the preschool, was to start moving you into this new world. Cheryl, question for you. You had two children. Whenever they went to first grade, was this a shocking experience to them that they now didn't have this all day contact with you as their mother?
Um, I was one of the unlucky lucky ones, if you can understand that. I was forced to go to work when my children were small because of the family situation. And so my nanny kept mine. We called her nanny. So both of them grew up with children around them. But I think their loss was with her probably more than me because they didn't have their friends, their everyday acquaintances. So yes, there was a devastation there.
Right. So when someone new comes to work for you in our company, we call this the most important day of their career because many times we're lost. They're not going to understand the vocabulary. They're not going to understand your language. They're going to be at a loss. They're going to walk in. And a lot of times they're going to walk in and it's like, how do people welcome them? How do they adjust into this brand new atmosphere? Okay. And this is going to take us into the next part of this, which is encouragement. You know, as you face a new task, have you ever faced one and you got discouraged? Have you ever faced that? I know a while ago, I just got a new tool in. It was a new smoke candle just came in just a little while ago. As I looked at this thing and I tried to make it work, there was a couple little challenges. They had the bottles sealed up a couple different times from the liquid you put in the smoke candle. And I kept going back, reverting to it, and having to look at the directions, even which way the batteries would go into this little device, because it required 6 AA batteries. So which one goes in? But then as I looked at it, hey, there's the diagram. It's telling me how to put them in. Then the next thing I know, it's like, okay, now I got to put the fuel into it. I got to figure out the right hole. I got to figure out how to open this. And it could be a very frustrating thing. And I'm sitting down here in my office all alone. I ain't got anybody to encourage me or anything. And often that's where I go with, I may go to Cheryl and say, hey, I can't figure this out. Help me out. And then she will encourage me. And that's what we've got to do to our people. So, Cheryl, what's your thoughts on encouragement?
People have to have it. They have to have it. I mean, that's just what you got to do to move on in daily life, because there's times when even you and I need that little push. And it doesn't mean you need total directions. You just need somebody sometime to tell you you can do it.
Right.
And I think we don't give that enough in the human race anymore.
Okay. And the next thing is, do they know what training they're going to need to take to move through this? I know one of the things that we have devised for our clients, and that is what we call the 100-day success plan. And in the 100-day success plan, we have a certain amount of hours of training that we want the people to do in the first 100 days. Now, if people follow this course of action that we have prescribed, which is a pretty in depth training program, there's quite a few hours in it. I'm firmly convinced that if they follow the 100-day success plan and they also do the hands on training and the encouragement and the mentoring there and the facilitation of the training, they're going to find that they're going to have very successful technicians in a short period of time. So it's going to take that training to do this also. Cheryl, what's your thoughts on training?
Training is extremely important. I mean, that's part of what we push every day, because without the training, you're just grasping it on your own. And that's another thing that I find when I'm interviewing a lot of people. Um, they ask, do they train us? Because they've been put in trucks or behind desks with no explanation of what to do, and they had to wing it and learn it on their own. So training to me is one of the most important things that you can do to retain a person, because if they get disgusted, they're gone.
Yeah, very true. So let's go deeper, and I want to take a look at you for a minute, Cheryl, and what you've gone through. You know, you weren't always a coach. You weren't always a disc assessor. You weren't always doing these kind of things. So you desired to reach a certain level in what you're doing. So, what were some of the steps that you took in order to move to that level? What was it in order to grasp these certifications that you have and other things?
Well, with my Ziegler, before I could become a Ziegler coach, I had to go through the Ziegler Legacy training, which was a full week. I had to learn their values, the things that they did. And then only after that was I allowed to go into the Ziegler training, which again, for the coaching, which again was another extensive period of time. Then I wanted to move on into a disc assessor again, which was another class. But it was the training. And did it make me? No. But did it improve me enough that I felt like I could sit in front of someone and actually talk to them with meaning and not with just my opinion?
Yep, and that's what it's all about. In other words, but you're kind of an independent person, so you were striving to do this, and we don't see this in a lot of people that we hire because they have fears or whatever. So they don't strive to get to those levels like you did in your particular career. So the next one, and this is one that I heard Larry Winget tell us many years ago in coaching class when we sat with him, was that people require an adequate job description. And I know you go through this even when you're working with people where you'll be running ads. And one of the things that the client has to prepare is a job description. And I think often you find that these people don't have a job description to describe the job that they're looking this person to fill. So, what's your feeling on job descriptions?
Many times they don't. They've never written one out. They assume, and I'm going to use that word, that the people will know what to do. Build the field, they will come. But the thing is, if you don't give them enough of exactly what you want, how can you hold them accountable for it? They have to know what their description is, what they need to do, and they need that job description up front to see if they're capable of doing it. Many times you bring people in and they find out, okay, I can't climb a ladder. So they're not capable of their job. So the things you have to let people know you can't just throw things at them and again assume that everyone can do what you're looking for.
Yeah. So, and then the next one, which is number six, said there has to be a reward system. There has to be celebrations. In other words, whenever they have accomplished these tasks and they have done things, you've got to reward them and you've got to celebrate this. It's just like if somebody goes through a class and it's one that we teach or it is an online class, then we issue a certificate of completion. It's a form of gamification. But what we're trying to do is reward people and say, hey, you did something really good, really special, and we want to recognize you for this. So, what's your plan to recognize people as they step up through this chain and attain the next level? Do you think that's a reward situation and that celebration? Are those needed, Cheryl? Or is that something that's really not a problem for you?
I think it is. I believe I don't think you have to have huge things. I don't you can't there's moments when just, an announcement before your group of people is enough. There's other times when it might require a little bit of a monetary reward. As you know, I'm not a huge fan of monetary rewards. I think more of something that is useful to the person, something that they can keep, something that doesn't disappear in 30 seconds.
Right. So the purpose of the day was to share with you some thought processes that just may make your recruitment efforts more viable. It might just start producing results for you. And it also may work to retain the present workers you have. Bringing up my buddy Al Levy again, I heard Al earlier today. He released a short video on social media. And the short video was all about how you want to get rid of your C and D players so you can show the A and B players because he's grading them on A, B, C, and D. And the C and D players, a lot of times we're simply hanging on to them in this day and time because we feel like we are handcuffed to them because we're so fearful of going out and trying to find people because the supply chain of available prospects just doesn't seem to be there. Even though in today's world, we're seeing actually the data is showing that unemployment is rising a little bit right now. But it's not just your industry, it's overall, it's everywhere. So, as a manager, what you've got to do is put together a program that will work for you, learning to network with other people, listening to what other people are doing that are successful in the recruitment game and the retaining game today. Cheryl, what's your thoughts on that?
Hey, I totally agree. And I agree with Al. The problem is a lot of times we are spending so much time on the C and D players because they're not performing and we have to keep pulling them along with a bad road that we don't have time to show the A and B how much we appreciate what they do. And that's where a lot of the A and B players are looking for another job because they're getting no recognition because all the C and D players are getting the time frames.
Right. So here's one of the things, okay? Sometimes it does really good for a person to simply share their frustrations with other people, to be able to speak and listen to other people's problems that are in the same situation. So, one of the places that you can do this is in a group coaching setting. And you want to think of it like a management information exchange group. So, what we do is with group coaching, this is an area that you can let out your frustrations amongst people that understand that are going through the same frustrations. I know one member of one of our coaching groups told me this week, Cheryl, that he enjoyed coming to the coaching calls. And the reason being to hear that he was not the only one suffering through the miseries that he was working through. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link in the comments about our group coachings, and we're getting ready to start another group up in the month of May. So we would love to have you participate in this. And if you want any more information about this, you can reach out to either one of us or to Brandy, who's not here today, who's playing hooky out there in Los Angeles right now. But here's what I know. Brandy's going to come back from LA, and this Pantheon. Cheryl, you think she's going to be raring to go with new ideas?
That and a boatload of swag.
And she's going to have swag like you ain't going to believe, because that gal is roaming the LA Coliseum. We're just wondering how many bags of swag that Brandy is going to bring back at the next, whenever she gets off the plane, and back in Kansas City. So, anyway, we're coming up to the end of this week's episode. And again, think about how you're going to put together a career path that shows your people the way and how to get there. Remember, they are not mind readers. Cheryl, have you ever interviewed anybody that one of their skills was mind reading?
No, most of them just, a lot of times they don't try. People can, basically, anybody can do it if they want to. But the thing about it is, they're not mind readers. We need to open up and explain to them what we're doing.
Yep. So appreciate you joining us today on this week's episode of the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. Tune us in every single week as we come forth and we'll try to share with you some great ideas and some great concepts for you guys and gals to put to work in your business, because our mission at CBC Success Group is to help our clients take their business dreams and turn them into their business realities. And with that, we'll see you next time